Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
If you are a golfer, you can relate to these. Are the top 10 caddy replies to the golfer that they caddy for, and here are some of my favorites. First of all, the golfer says, "I think I'm going to drown myself in the lake." And the caddy says, "Think you can keep your head down that long?" And here's my absolute favorite. The golfer says, "This is the worst course I've ever played on." The caddy said, "Sir, this isn't the golf course. We left that an hour ago." Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance this morning on a Monday. Zeb at the Ranch, good morning. Thank you very much, Kate Smith, and God bless America. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with a great big spring tire sale, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley. And, of course, our dear friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, 734-6969. Gina is not there this morning because she's taken a little R&R, and with us on the board, the quarterback of the team this morning, calling the signals, is Scotty Cameron. Good morning, Scotty.
Omaha,
wide right, 17, 34, go, green light, yes. You sound just like Manning, doesn't it?
Well, I try anyway.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Hey, it's nice to have you aboard for one day at least.
You know, it's good to be here. I always like to come back. It's kind of like coming home.
Well, I tell you what, you are appreciated, and the lovely Gina needs that rest, so thanks, Scotty. We appreciate it. And I believe we have someone on the air with us right now to give us our Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead, Pledge. Good morning. Who are you?
Well, good morning, Mr. Bell.
Well, good morning, Sunshine Al.
Okay, you ready?
I am, sir. Thank you very much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, yes, sir.
Have a happy day and be happy.
I am smiling like a Cheshire cat. I look like a fat little pumpkin on the back porch. I'm smiling so
Good
much.
Good for you.
Okay,
Keep it up.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
buddy. Oh, my goodness sakes, we got a lot of things to talk about. And, Deanna, I've got a call coming in that I can't take on my cell phone. I don't know why they called me right now. But, hey, it's time for the weather. And whether you're going outside and throwing something in the back of that pickup truck, you want to make sure that it gets there when you arrive, whether it's saddles, whether it's tack and tools, groceries, everything. You need to have a camper shell on that pickup. I do. And I got mine from Save On Shells, 1835 Overland in Burley. Call Anthony today at 312-1525. Save On Shells. I'll tell you more about them in a minute, but right now, here's Michael Rogers Weather. Good morning, Michael.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. First of many broadcasts that I'll be giving you as far as your weather forecast, because I'm sitting here outside of North Pole, Alaska. As far as the Idaho weather is concerned, well, we get a pretty nice day for today. Summer clouds, temperatures in the we're going to go upper 60s, maybe low 70s, maybe 71. Overnight lows are not going to be that much of a problem for today. and also for tomorrow. So otherwise, have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
There you go. MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you by Save On Shells. They've got the new ARE shells, many, many different models. I love going over there because these folks really know what's going on with shells. Anthony, 312-1525. And they've also got a fantastic selection of used shells for your pick-em-up trucks. And they can and will find just what you want. And don't worry about installation parts and service. They are the best. How do I know? Because I bought a camper shell right there from Save On Shells, 1835 Overland in Burley, the very, very best. All right, good morning, everybody. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to just kind of highlight a little bit about the Easter weekend, and I saw something yesterday on East 5 Points in Twin Falls that I think is worthy of mention, and they didn't have any signs up. They weren't asking for any accolades. They weren't asking for any thank yous. They just stood there, and it was about 5 or 6 young men, maybe young boys, about maybe 10, 11, and 12 at the most, along with an adult leadership, and they were standing there holding a 6-foot cross. That's it. There was no signage. There was no asking for anything. There was nothing, and it was very, very poignant yesterday on Easter. I don't know who made the idea up to go stand there on that corner and highlight Easter and the real meaning of Easter, but I want to compliment them, and I certainly hope, I don't even know what church they represented or what they represented at all, but it was beautiful watching those kids stand there almost at attention with the adult leadership holding a 6-foot cross. God bless you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to remind you about Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, and they are simply the best cleaners in the universe. I've taken my clothes in there for years and years and years, all my Wranglers, sports jackets, sports shirts, everything, and they come back looking brand spanking new. Now, I suggest you take everything in there that you need cleaned to Daryl's Cleaners. Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew, very nice people. 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Stop in and see them today. Hey, by the way, I got some new news on SafeLink Internet. They've been around for over 16 years in southern Idaho, and I'll tell you what, they offer the fast, reliable internet, and they have a track record to prove it. And they've been here, like I said, for over 16 years, and they want to serve you. And don't forget their website, SafeLinkInternet.com, SafeLinkInternet.com. Go to the website, and don't forget to get on the program with SafeLink Internet. Call them at 677-8000. Idaho's #1 choice, SafeLink Internet. You will appreciate it. All right, let's get some calls in here at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to highlight that Lunch Bunch is going to be this Thursday at Denny's Restaurant. Oh, my goodness, Denny's Restaurant. We were in there the other day and had breakfast, and I've got to tell you that I had that Philly cheesesteak omelet. Whoo, wow, knocked my boots off, delicious. You know what, Denny's Restaurant with the crew over there, they are just absolutely friendly and really great service. Thomas and Terry, the whole outfit at 611 Overland in Burley, and they've got gift cards that you can give away to somebody that's hungry and wants a good breakfast, lunch, or dinner as a friendship gesture. They've got all kinds of great things for the seniors, special menu, and AARP discounts. Get in there today. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, it is the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Coming up, our next Lunch Bunch on this Thursday. Absolutely worthless, absolutely despicable, and absolutely Obama. Playing the politics card on Good Friday afternoon. Waited till Good Friday afternoon, the Holy Weekend, Good Friday, and Obama pulls the rug out from underneath everybody here in the country and says, no, I'm not going to sign for the Keystone Pipeline. I'm going to wait until after the November elections. So in other words, he wants to see if his Democrats are going to retain leadership or not in the Senate. You know, folks, 700,000 barrels per month. 700,000 barrels per month of oil we are getting from overseas, and we could stop that and deal with our neighbors to the north in Canada. They make money, we create jobs, it's safe, absolutely not going to hurt anything, and this man is playing the Enviro card and living up to what his number one Democratic campaign man right now, Tom Steyer's in California, multi-billionaire Democrat, said he will give $100 million to the Democratic campaign for November if Obama does not sign the Keystone Pipeline. You know, it's so absolutely ridiculous. Here we go with Harry Reid standing up at the podium, the punch-drunk ex-boxer Harry Reid, and demanding and denigrating that the Koch brothers on the Republican ticket go out of existence because of their helping campaign funding with various GOP members. But now it's okay for Democratic billionaire Tom Steyer to say, okay, you don't sign the Keystone Pipeline. We will not have any more oil. We will not have any reduction in price. We will not help the American people. We will not help promote jobs. We're going to give, through my campaign, he said, $100 million to the Democrats if he doesn't sign Keystone. Ladies and gentlemen, you be the judge. 11 Democratic senators are willing and telling Obama to sign for the Keystone Pipeline. But no, the environmental movement in this country is now the ownership of the United States government. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, don't leave me hanging here. Give me a call. I want to hear from you. Valley-Wide Home and Ranch, your local home and ranch store. Don't forget, they're going to have a free gardening clinic coming up. I believe it's going to be this next weekend. Yes, it is, and it's going to be a dandy deal coming up on Saturday, April 26th, and it's hosted by Garden Wise. And bring your questions. They'll have all the answers for you. Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. Fertilizer, feed, clothing, pet tack, lawn and garden supplies, everything at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert with Steve and the rest of the crew. Don't miss that great big gardening clinic coming up this next Saturday at Valley-Wide. One quick note, too, I want to remind you that all the lights, go to the light, and that's Ramsey Heating and Electric. At 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, they've got all your lights, whether you need outside lighting, lamps, CFL bulbs, incandescent light bulbs while they last. And I bought a box of them. They've got them in 40, 60, 75, or 100 watt, clear or frosted. You stop in there for all your electrical needs, too. Cords, cord ends, fuses, everything at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. All right, time for you to get on the phone and give me a call. Today, the Boston Marathon, 1 year after the Muslim Brothers terrorist attack, the bombing, and Boston has turned out Boston strong for this event. As a matter of fact, they've got over 3,500 police on duty today, and we certainly hope and pray that everybody will be safe during the Boston Marathon today for the 2014 edition. God's blessings to each and every one of them. And they really made some tears run down my cheeks this morning early when they showed some of the people that were back standing at the starting line that had gone through some horrendous injuries of losing legs and arms and just all kinds of physical difficulties this morning. And do I have any calls? I didn't know I had a call. He didn't give me the cow sign. Scott, when I have a call, just tell me or else boo that cow in my ear. I didn't hear it.
Okay, yeah, I'll crank it up.
All right, buddy, if you would, please. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm not too bad. Good to hear from you, Tony. What's going on?
Well, about this Keystone deal, I think he knows he's not up for re-election, so whatever's going to happen is going to happen, won't affect him. But I really feel that this bunch over in the Middle East, the Muslims that are owning these oil things, that promised this guy the world when he gets out of office. And I think, personally, that's what it's all about.
Tony, as far as I'm concerned, the Middle East and their oil, whether it's Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, it doesn't make any difference, Saudi Arabia, all of them, they can just bathe in their oil. I wish that we would open up all of our oil fields that we have, the Balkans and the Dakotas and Montana, everything, and just drill, baby, drill. I'd love to see all of them. That's the only export they have. They have nothing else. These people need to starve to death, and maybe their attitude will change as far as trying to kill, maim, and bomb and blow up everybody. I absolutely would love to see every one of those camel jockeys sitting at the Oasis with a tin cup.
Well, that's just like Murder Incorporated was back in the East with the mob. And one other little thing about Harry Reid.
Yes, sir.
Calling the Bundy families terrorists. All this is a big cover-up for the corruption that him and his sons are involved in.
You know, you bring up a good point about Harry Reid, and I listened to that when he called Bundy's and other ranchers domestic terrorists. That was absolutely as low-class as it gets, but he gets away with it. Harry Reid is one of the worst and most derogatory figureheads of the Democratic Party, and he still stays in his position. If I were them, I'd throw that bum out of there and get somebody that had a little class and decorum, wouldn't you?
Well, unfortunately, the media, most of the media, has been paid off by the Democratic Party to keep their mouth shut about any derogatory stuff about their Harry Reid and the rest of them.
Well, I just think that Obama showed his colors, and the administration showed their true colors, waiting until the latter hours in the afternoon of Good Friday, a very slow news day, and then they came out and announced that they were not going to sign for the Keystone Pipeline until after the election. If that doesn't reek of pathetic politics, I don't know what does.
Well, he's in the pockets of the Middle East oil cartels, and that's all there is to it.
Well, not only that, though. He's in the pockets of billionaires right here in this country that are trying to enhance all this enviro movement with the solar and the wind. And Tom Stiers is a multi-billionaire with a B, and he said he'd give $100 million to Democratic campaigns if no Keystone. So I'm telling you, Tony, we, the American public, are being hurt with extremely high energy costs.
Danger, and the younger generation in this country doesn't realize it, and the welfare bunch doesn't want to make any changes other than to enhance the Democratic Party.
Absolutely. And I just hope and pray that people can see through the false front building of the Democratic Party and vote every one of them out in November. Tony, God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
God bless you. Hey, caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget Ed's Office Products. Gloria said, I want a vacation. And so they're going to sell out after 40 years. Ed's Office Products has decided to close the doors. Everything is 25% off. Beautiful solid oak desks and a variety of office supplies. They're open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5, and the merchandise won't last long. I got to get over there. Ed's Office Products Incorporated, 1340 Overland and Burley, and they are closing the doors. Big discounts at Ed's Office Products in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. You know, these environmentalists, the environmental extremists and Harry Reid and the bureaucrats are just, you know, doing a number on us. Not only our energy production, but this endangered species. You look at the Bruno snail. I mean, it goes the snail darter way back, you know, the wolves, the bears. It's just they're tying up all the land, trying to, of course, the goal is 50% of the land area of the U.S. will be game preserve, and that means kicking people off. But Harry Reid, of course, has a financial vested interest in getting rid of Clive and Bundy because of that tie into the Chinese multi-billion-dollar solar project that they want to put out
well, there. Adrian, let's just forget that for a moment and go to the point where they're trying to get everybody off the land. I don't care if it's the Bundy situation. I don't care if it's up here with us, with the wolf situation, spotted owl situation, salmon, everything. And you picked it over 10 years ago. You told us this was going to happen. And little by little, our own usage up here going into the BLM on ATVs or a horseback or the Forest Service or whatever, our use of federal and public lands is absolutely being diminished. And when is the American public, in your opinion, going to have that alarm clock go off and they're going to sound that wake-up call and they're going to fight back?
I don't know. The national news media is so controlled. I mean, they're in the tank totally for the environmental movement. They're still pushing the global warming fraud and hoax, and the people back east, my friends back there, they're still shoveling snow as we speak.
That's right.
And it's just unbelievable that they can get away with it. But fortunately there's a lot of people that are waking up, and their ox is being gored. But it's just going to take a lot more effort. Everybody out there that has their email friends across the country, let's do the underground media here, and we got to get hold of those congressmen and senators, put more heat on them. But they just seem to go along to get along. I mean, they keep funding them, and Simpson's had the opportunity to really emasculate the EPA, and he cuts the funding. What the cut means is they didn't get the increase they requested.
Well, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. Why? And give me a short answer on this, because I got a commercial break. Why would anyone today want to vote Democratic when you've got the likes of Harry Reid, when you've got the likes of cutting back on energy to the point where people can't even afford to take their kids to a Little League baseball game or go to the store and get groceries? Why would we want to vote Democratic today? We need to throw every one of them out because of the platform and the ideas and the ideology that are being pushed onto us by the Obama administration. Why would you want to vote Democratic today?
Well, the short answer is they're voting their next welfare check.
Basically, that's right.
That's the short answer.
Adrian, I need you to call me. I need you to get you on the air in the next couple of weeks, so give me a jingle on the landline after the program. I'll talk to you. I appreciate it, and God bless you, and I hope you had a great Easter yesterday. Thank you very much.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm wearing a new set of headsets this morning, and I'm having an awful hard time I got a little echo on my end, and it's my problem. It's my problem here, and I'll get it worked out. Caller, I'll be right with you, I promise. Don't go away. I want to remind everybody about our dear friend, Mr. Joe Larson, running for Cassia County Clerk. For the last 4 years, Joe Larson has worked tirelessly for Cassia County as Cassia County Clerk. With nearly 35 years' experience as a businessman in Minnecasia, Joe is a solid advocate for the taxpayer. Don't forget, he believes that local government should operate frugally and responsibly. And in 2014, Joe submitted and the county commissioners approved a budget that cuts spending by the largest amount in recent years. Cassia County benefits from consistent and experienced leadership. On May 20th, don't you dare forget to re-elect Joe Larson for Cassia County Clerk. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Isn't MSNBC the biggest fraud you've ever seen?
Well, that depends on what the subject matter is, but I've never been a fan of anything they do. As a matter of fact, I find them to be highly unprofessional and not very much class. What are your points?
Well, I just like to see what the other side is doing. But anyway, they had this rally or riot or whatever you want to call it in is it Kansas, Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And this Keystone pipeline, they had all these people out there protesting and everything, but they were interviewing these people and carrying on something terrible, but not one positive thought to it. It was just all against.
Well, the Keystone Pipeline, Keith, this isn't the only pipeline. There are thousands of them back there, and this is the safest one, environmentally speaking, and the way it's been laid out. The contractors have had to check, double-check, triple-check everything, and it's absolutely, nobody can find any flaws with it. Nobody can find any flaws with it, but yet this administration is selling us down the river for higher oil prices and not being able to work with our friends and buying oil from Canada. This is ludicrous. And I think everybody should remember that when they go to the polls in November.
Yeah, it just isn't fair. Isn't there some way we can get Obama out of there? I mean, there's no way we can overrule him on this pipeline, right?
Well, the thing is, he's got so much executive power right now, and he's wielding his pen and his phone, and they're playing politics with this election. I honestly think that after November, if the Republicans take over the Senate, I think we can make some demands on this administration as a very lame duck administration for the following 2 years after 14, that yes, we can get that Keystone pipeline implemented and feasible for all of us. But if the Democrats retain their hold of the Senate, it's going to get a lot worse, my friend.
You know, and to see these people protesting there in Nebraska was a disgrace, because anybody watching that would think, well, maybe they got the right idea or something, you know, and that's their whole point.
Absolutely.
They think they're sticking up for the mass, and it's just a tiny little part.
I got a break I've got to take care of, Keith. I appreciate your call. God bless you, man. Thank you so much. Don't forget Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West, 203 south of Hayburn. And Jim was on the phone with us the other day, and he's got filters. Oh, my goodness, has he got filters. He's got all the filters you could possibly be looking for, and at prices that you will not see these low prices again for a long, long time. Better get hold of him today. And he's got all your bolts. Have bolts will travel. They've got the metric and the standard bolts. They've got the bolt bins. They've got everything, and all your tools, all your oils, everything, and they can clean your air filters, and you can reuse them and save money. I'm telling you to call Travel Lube Supply right now at 438-8730, 1050 West, 203 south of Hayburn, Travel Lube Supply. It is time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, and it's brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Legislation to establish a voluntary labeling standard for foods and beverages made with genetically modified ingredients will provide clarity for consumers who have GMO concerns, a National Association of Wheat Growers officials say. No commercialized GMO wheat is available, but many products that wheat goes into do contain GMOs. The Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act was recently proposed in the U.S. House of Representatives. The Coalition for Safe, Affordable Food includes 35 organizations. The bill would establish the Food and Drug Administration as the sole authority on food safety and GMO labeling requirements. The act would require the FDA to approve all genetically modified ingredients before they are brought to market.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Thank you very much, and don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley with your Lennox Home Comfort Systems. You call them today, 678-0459. Calls are welcome and appreciated. Give us a jingle on the landline. Muslims around the world this past Easter weekend, Muslims around the world were persecuting, killing, and absolutely sabotaging everything with Christianity they could get their hands on. And I know that many prayer requests went out over the weekend for Christians around the world with the absolutely horrendous happenings that were being perpetrated by Muslims in many of the far reaches around the world. And our prayers go out to other Christians that were subjected to this absolutely heinous attack over the weekend, and it was totally repulsive. Absolutely repulsive. By the way, in somewhat of a related subject, and I'd like your response on this, over the weekend of Easter, the holy weekend of Easter, the atheists came out and showed their real low class. Whether it was in Chicago, whether it was in Wisconsin, whether it was in New York, they came out with their very low class, and they had perverted signs and displays at or near other Christian churches around the states and around the United States. And I pity them because they have nothing. And no class to these pathetic people that tried to denigrate Easter and the real reason of Easter with their really low-class signs and their displays. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. By the way, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have lunch bunch on this Thursday, and along with our friends at Denny's Restaurant, we also want to thank Smith's Food King, Hanson Mortuary, and along with Denny's for all the gift cards that we give away as door prizes on Thursday at lunch bunch. Don't you miss it. And to Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie, with a 20-year proven record of increasing yield and quality of all Idaho crops, speeding germination, reducing crusting, and improving stand, stimulating root growth and microbial activity. Low-cost Penetron, not only with all that, but it saves irrigation water, and the water savings alone will pay for the cost of the product. Better crop yields, better quality. Increase your crop's performance with a proven soil conditioner. You tell your fertilizer dealer and crop advisor you want Penetron by Maisie, the best for your crops. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Also in the news this morning, 13 years after 9/11, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is still alive, sitting in a jail cell, and on our dime, by the way, millions and millions and millions of our dollars, and nothing has been done yet. 13 years. This man should have been executed a long time ago. Why? Why is he still alive? Why are we catering to the Muslims? Why are we absolutely not taking care of this situation with a very swift and decisive act? We're not. And this administration is aiding and abetting more of the problem. With the hiring in their own administration of the Muslim Brotherhood, we are seeing more of these attacks that are planned now. After I watched the Al-Qaeda video the other night on television last week and saw the blatant approach that they have in going and death to America, we all need to stand on our toes and be very vigilant as to what's going to happen in this United States. Calls welcome and appreciated, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. As I mentioned a little bit ago, Scotty Cameron's filling in for Gina this morning, and we certainly appreciate all his efforts at the station. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, Zeb, yesterday was Easter, of course, and we saw the example of Christ dying on the cross and the garden, living through the Garden of Gethsemane, and how he, the people, when you think about what happened to Christ and his actual message was only preached, the interaction between him and his people wasn't that big of a deal. But Christianity is, a gigantic thing across this world. And, how did it grow to be such a thing? And how is the most prominent man in their history was Christ. And he was willing to die for what he knew was right. He knew it had to happen. He went there, somewhat quietly, like a man. It's the kind of thing that sets an example for everybody. If you really want to be a man, then you act like you're like Christ. And just last Sunday, when the people were going to, get the cattle back for Clive and Bundy, one of the things that was tweeting that my nephews were down there and other people had said was that for freedom, we were willing to die. And see, when that kind of thing, it inspires people and maybe wakes them up and be proactive towards what is necessary, because if we lose this thing called America, we'll never get it back.
Well, okay.
The ruling elite will never have it occur. We are the answer, as Christ was the answer for us.
Randy, I'll tell you something. Everything you said is very poignantly true. But we have a society today, and all you have to do is just look around you, whether it's Burley, whether it's Twin Falls, whether it's Sun Valley, whether it's Salt Lake City, it doesn't make any difference. We have a laid-back society of gimme, 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 and nobody wants to get involved. They all want to be politically correct. Nobody wants to make any waves. Nobody wants to stand in front of the group and lead the charge back towards decency, morality, and what this country stands for. And it's got to start somewhere, and it's going to start here. I don't care what we have to do to stand up and fight for what's what's right. We're going to do it on this program. I know others around the United States that feel the same way, and I'm going to do all I can to highlight those people. Later on this morning, as a matter of fact, at 10:30, I have Dave Keeley, and you probably don't remember that name, but he was the shop teacher in Ottawa, Illinois, and the school board said, well, we don't need shop. We don't need welders. We don't need electricians anymore, so we're going to cancel that as part of our school. And the students were outraged, and they stood up for Dave Keeley, and many of them were suspended because they stood up for what was right. That's what we need people to do, is stand up for what's right, Randy, and that's what's missing today.
Well, I think there's a certain portion of people that are willing to do so, and I think that, just because, we're not aware of them, they exist, and I think when the time comes, just like down with Clive and Bundy, they will appear. And so, it may seem bad, but I think that we underestimate the spirit of the American people.
I hope so, Randy. God bless you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Caller number 2, I'll be right there, I promise. I've just got to tell everybody that if you're looking to rent or looking to buy, I know a place for all your equipment. And boy, oh boy, have they got the equipment. Coyote tractors and all the big Doosan loaders and excavators. I mean, you will not find it anywhere else any better, and the display and the assortment is all there for you. Stop in and see our friends at Barry Equipment and Rental. They've got 3 locations: Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, 2331 South Lincoln, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Went by there yesterday. What a display. They got Coyote tractors all over the place. They've got the loaders by Doosan. They've got everything there for you. Get a hold of Nick and the rest of the crew today at Burley's location. They're waiting to serve you. Barry Equipment and Rental. You get a hold of those good guys today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Ab.
Yes, sir.
How are you this morning?
Well, a lot better than I was yesterday, thank you very much. And what can I do for you?
Well, I was wondering what happened there, Governor and Simpson. They don't want to sign on to the Republican platform, the Idaho Republican platform.
I don't know, and I'm not going to speak for them as to why their reasoning is, but I'll ask you. You're very well educated in what's going on with the GOP, et cetera, and the platform.
I don't know. I'm wondering why.
Well, I'm going to have them on the air.
I'm asking you.
I'm going to have them...
I thought you might know.
I tell you what I'm going to do, Fred. Hang on just a second. I'm going to have both of them on the air again in the next couple of days, and I'm going to ask them that question and find out exactly why they wouldn't support the platform or what parts of the platform they were disagreeing to, and then we'll have the answers. But I won't speak for them, and I won't give my opinions until I hear it from them.
Okay, good enough.
All right, my friend. God bless you for your call. I appreciate it.
You bet.
The one thing I will not do on this program is make suppositions. There's too many talk show hosts that do that, and I won't do it. It's going to be fact or it's not going to be on my show. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, just a little personal note here. I was absolutely shocked, and I guess it brought me to the point of tears when I thought about those kids, those 300-plus teenagers on that South Korean ferry that had flipped over, and many of those students trapped in the various compartments of that ferry. And still today, this morning, over 220 people are unaccounted for in those murky, cold waters off the coast of South Korea. And the families, what they're going through is, I can't even imagine. Wondering about their children, wondering about what happened to them, wondering about maybe they're still in an air pocket, maybe they're still alive in this cold water situation. And the thing that bothered me the most about that story was watching the ferry boat captain and the crew, and they were taken off the ship and they were taken into custody because they literally jumped ship. They literally jumped ship as one of the first groups and first persons to leave the disaster area and try to go to their own safety, and left hundreds of teenagers on that turned upside down in the ocean ferry to fend for themselves. How absolutely despicable. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It's time for a weather update this hour, and it's brought to you by our friends at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. My goodness sakes, 382 North Oberlin and Burley. Got a break, got a sprain, got a strain, got a little bit of a scratch or whatever. I'm telling you what, a little cut, you need care? Well, they'll give you, with the minor emergencies, major care. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 9, Sundays 1 to 7. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Oberlin and Burley. The number to call, 678-6996. Here now is Michael Rogers with a weather update.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. First of many broadcasts that I'll be giving you as far as your weather forecast, because I'm sitting here outside of North Pole, Alaska. As far as the Idaho weather is concerned, well, we get a pretty nice day for today. Sun and clouds, temperatures in the, we're going to go upper 60s, maybe low 70s, maybe 71. Overnight lows are not going to be that much of a problem for today, and also for tomorrow. So otherwise, have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. Minor emergencies, major care. The doctor will see you now. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I had a chance on Saturday. We took off early in the morning and went up to my son's in Nampa. And we were going to have a pre-Easter dinner with Jake and Shanna and my two youngest grandsons, Austin and Mad Max. Mad Max is only 4 months old. Oh, my goodness, has that boy changed. And Jake and I had a chance before dinner to go over to the Idaho Center for the Horse Expo. And we had a chance to go through and take in all the booths and take a look at everybody that was there, representing various horse organizations and businesses from all over the United States. Very, very well done, that Horse Expo up there in the Napa area. And the horse business is one business people don't appreciate how big it is nationwide. It is a multi-billion with a B industry. And they're again suffering because of the ineptitude and the amateuristic attitude by this administration because of energy. The horse business is absolutely tied in with energy to travel to the horse shows, the rodeos, the jumpings, anything else. It's a big, big business. All the breeding farms, all the equipment, all the pickups, all the trailers, all the insurance, all the feed, everything is tied into and around energy to make sure that it can exist. And when you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar part of the agricultural industry that could go down because of more severe high energy costs, it's absolutely ridiculous. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Scotty, I have not had a chance to visit with you since you got back from the Midwest. Turn your mic on for a minute if you don't mind. I'd like to visit with you for a second if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Hey, you went back into the oil fields of the Dakotas for a while, and I never have had a chance to really interview and ask about this, but what about our oil exploration and, of course, the demand for oil that's coming out of that area? Tell me a little bit about it. What did you learn back there?
Well, you know, it's really amazing when you go back there and you start looking at what's going on. And there are a lot of drilling going on. They're doing the fracking out there, of course. And right now they're only tapping one formation of oil that's available. And there are several different formations that are available. And I'll be honest with you, when I was back there in North Dakota, I don't understand what those environmentalists are raving about, because what I saw, there wasn't really much to save there.
Scott, let me ask you this. In regards to the barrels per day or the barrels per month that we have to buy from camel jockeys across the water in the Middle East, how much more production, and I underline the word more, could we get out of that area and possibly eliminate a lot of the imports?
You know, I'm not so sure that we couldn't be self-sustaining. There's a lot of oil there right now, and they're just starting to tap what's going on. I know the BNSF Railroad they're starting to put in new infrastructure there so that they can move that oil out of there and to get it to where it needs to go. So, and like I was saying, they're just in one formation of oil that is available, and there are several more just waiting to be tapped and to go.
Now, you say several more. Now, all of this is done on what? Private land?
Yeah, there's some private land. Most of it's really private land. Like a rancher will rent their part out so that the company can come in there and drill the oil. And, I think they do some public land drilling up there as well. But to be honest with you, we need that oil, and I'm sick and tired of having to ship our oil from all the way across the country, the world, when we can have it right here and be benefiting.
Well, you were back there and had a chance, I'm sure, to visit with a lot of people, and this is a question I wanted to ask somebody. You probably had a chance to visit with the pros and cons of the Keystone Pipeline, of which I have researched this, and in all honesty, I've got right here on my desk probably 500-600 pages regarding the Keystone Pipeline. I cannot find one negativity to it, whether it's environmental worries and thoughts, or whether it has anything to do with the cost, etc., whether it has to do with the jobs that would be supplied because of the Keystone. What were the thoughts about the Keystone Pipeline with the people that you worked with back there?
They're very, very pro-Keystone Pipeline. I mean, it's just another way for them to get their product to market, and a lot easier than, some of the methods that are available right now. And you have a call as well.
All right. Scotty, I appreciate it. I'm glad to have you back, though. Thank you very much. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hello, everyone. Michael. Yeah, Zeb, I'm sorry. I know I'm calling back, but it's because of this question. If you look at a map of the public lands that are owned by the state but ran by the federal government, North and South Dakota virtually have no public land. It's all private. Same way with Texas. So when you have these oil-producing states, the federal government just can't even get their foot in because there is no public land for them to get their foot in on. So that is truly the unbelievable miracle of it all across most of this country, is that they cannot force their hand on land that they have no control over. Now, they don't really control the public land, and that's, of course, what the issue was with Cliven Bundy. But if you go to the AmericanLandsCouncil.org and look at this map, if you look at Nevada, for instance, hell, there's 85% of Nevada is controlled by the federal government.
That's right.
The poor people in Nevada don't even hardly have any to say about any of their public
Randy, every American, and I know you would, and I am, every American should be sending a fax, an email, whatever, back to Obama in Washington, D.C., and say, Mr. President, we do not like the way you're handling this. We do not like the way you're kowtowing to the environmentalists. We do not like the way that you're making prices at the pump escalate and seniors can't go to see their grandkids. We don't like what you're doing to the poorer folks in our country. They can't afford to get to work and put enough gas in their vehicle to get back and forth to home. We don't like what you're doing. Sign the Keystone Pipeline. Every single American should demand that they won't ever vote for a Democrat again until he signs that Keystone Pipeline.
Well, of course. And that's the thing. See, again, there was a lady that was from Arkansas, and she was very upset about Common Core. And she said, I've come to the conclusion there's only one way to solve this, and that's for the states to demand their state's sovereignty and rights. And just like if all of these western states that have all this public land controlled by the federal government say, no, we're through, they eventually can't fight the state any longer.
Absolutely.
The sovereignty of a state is law, and we're just not stopping them from doing it, and that's what we've got to do.
Our economy, Randy,
of the federal government.
Our economy would turn around and start just shooting up like a rocket with benefits and with higher wages and with absolutely people off the unemployment list if we would just open up this energy research right here in our own country. But this administration wants to keep us all under their thumbs. Randy, God bless you for your call back. I do appreciate it.
Hey, Zeb, I got one more example.
Real quick.
A couple of years ago, I was in Wyoming, and I noticed that they were having a county fair in a very sparsely populated county in Wyoming. And I drove in just to talk to them and just was interested. and I happened to drive up, and a county commissioner was standing there, and I talked to him, and he, somehow I figured it out. He told me whatever. But I says, well, it seems like you have unbelievable amount of facilities here that are just all new and nice. And I says, what is it? Because of the natural gas and oil on private land? And he says, you bet. He says this property is so wealthy, and they pay so much tax, and they have no problem paying it because of the natural gas and oil on their private land.
Absolutely.
He says, it makes our county rich.
Absolutely.
And they have these facilities that we're just make our fairgrounds look like a joke.
Absolutely.
Because they had that type of money because of the natural resources.
I got to run, Randy. You're right on. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll take that next call in a moment. Stand by, caller. Don't forget, again, Lennox Home Comfort Systems with gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps. Your family will love the comfort through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Also, there is a big spring tire sale going on right now at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness sakes, you better get in there and save money on all the tires for your vehicles. Absolutely. They've got them for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, everything. Like the Ultra Z900, their best all-season touring tire, over 20% more tread life, outstanding wet and dry traction, and a quieter riding tire. You're going to love this in all the tires, along with the best in brake service, and I mean that. The best in brake service. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, all of this and much, much more at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I got a minute and a half. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Hoss, this is the Chief.
Yes, Chief. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Really good. What can I do for you real fast?
You're jumping around, skipping rope down everything, huh?
I wouldn't go that far, Chief. Thank you.
You know, there's about a 25 cent difference in gas price between here and eastern Idaho. I go up there quite a bit, and I can't believe the difference in price, but I don't think they should be exporting oil. We export a lot of Alaskan oil, and it's crazy. And I come from central Wyoming over there west of Casper and kind of southeast of Jackson Hole, and that's all oil country. And on the reservation, they've got vast reserves of oil. They haven't really done any fracking, and some of those were the biggest oil reserves in the world.
Well, Chief, there's an estimate. There's an estimate right now in this country, and I'm hurrying you along because I got to go to the news, but I want your response on this. Hang on just a second.
People in the government there on the reservation are Caucasian. There's hardly any Indians running their own reservation and their own oil reserves and what they want to do at all.
Right. What I was going to say is we have literally the estimates, and I've got 3 of them right here on my desk, anywhere from 750 to 1,100 years worth of oil production in the United States. And by that time, I'm sure that something else will be invented. Chief, I got to run. God bless. Take care. I'm glad to hear from you. Thank you, sir. We are going to take a little break for about 6 minutes, and we're going to turn it back over to Scotty and the guys and gals over at the station, and then ABC News, and then we're going to come back, and Frosty Woldridge is going to be with us at 9:06, followed at 9:30 with Jordan Lawrence with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll be right back. Just standing there with an adult leader holding a 6-foot cross erect. And it really hit me. There was no signs. There was nobody asking for any money. There was nobody asking for any benefit of advertising for a specific church or whatever. There stood this adult leader and some of these boys just standing there with that great big white cross. And it really touched me on Easter Sunday.
Well, everyone has their appreciation for what Jesus Christ did, and to this day, the remarkable journey. And he's not only the great exception; he's the great example. And I hope that whole understanding, that way of living, the forgiveness, the appreciation, the joy, the accepting sorrow and moving forward, and the renewal, all of those things that he taught, we all have a chance to live by ourselves, and we get to express it as we go along. So, yeah, it was very touching. My preacher yesterday gave us a sermon that had me in tears, and he used one of the great examples is just quickly he was going on his high school prom date, and he went up to the top of the Denver restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
He was wearing his best, and she was wearing her best, but he was very nervous, and she was a pretty girl, and he wasn't sure of himself, and he had a steak and she had shrimp, and as he was cutting his steak, the steak flew off his plate and onto the floor. And the maitre d', who was obviously a very compassionate man, raced over and said, "Oh my gosh, sir, we gave you the wrong steak plate. Let me." And he grabbed up the steak and he put it inside of his jacket, and he said, "This is all my fault." And I mean, I was just sitting out there going, how many of us have made terrible mistakes and embarrassed ourselves in the past and had essentially the metaphor of the steak fly off the plate in front of somebody that we were trying to at least have a nice evening with or even impress. And here comes an angel, in this case the maitre d', who just said, "This is my fault. I'm going to get a steak plate. We're going to get you a new steak." And within 10 minutes, brought a new steak on a plate that was totally different than the plate that he had before, and said, "Sir, we certainly apologize about this, and I hope you and your date have a very nice evening." And of course, well, he was the preacher was so appreciative of the maitre d'. He never saw him again, but he walked out the door and a big thank you on his lips. And I think Jesus taught the same thing, and that all of us who follow and appreciate all those teachings, we'll make this a better world, and hopefully each and every one of you gets to be also forgiving like the maitre d' and help that young man out who just had that steak fly off his plate. So,
let me ask
for everybody, and also just the renewal of life for all of us here at Easter, and also at the coming of spring. So I hope that little story was delightful for all of you.
It was, and I'll tell you something you brought to mind. I'll ask this question of you. You and I both travel extensively. I mean, there's been times and years where I was hardly ever home with my business on the road, and you, of course, bicycling all over the world, literally. Have you ever, in your travels and in your writings, have you ever come across what you would term as an experience where you absolutely were brought to believe in angels? Now, I can honestly say I have, and I'd just like to get your opinion on that.
I've been to some of the highest mountain passes, and I've been up to 19,000 feet in the sky, and I also ski. I've climbed 14,000-foot peaks, and I ski at 12,000 feet all winter long. And I also, as a cyclist, have had moments of extraordinary elation, as if something more than me was moving with me through this life. And, I don't know if you go back, and it's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed, and how you get touched by an angel. But I do know that being alive and breathing and at some points in your life having this sense of the spirit of the universe or the spirit of God or the spirit of life course through you, I have been blessed many, many times with that kind of a almost a foreshadowing, and I'm always thankful for it, because I'm never sure when it's going to hit. So some of the things that you felt, and I bet everyone out there, you felt that you were with something, the energy of life, the spirit of life, you as a spiritual being, all of it, culminating in some kind of an awareness. Maybe that bell that rings shows that an angel gets its wings. Happens to all of us at some point in our lives, and boy, if and when it does, and you get to live it, it's a wondrous feeling, and I think I have felt it often in my life, so I'm very grateful for that.
Well, I can tell you and share with this, I've shared it before on the radio, and I'm not at all embarrassed to say this story again, but about 5-6 years ago, I had an early morning flight out of the Portland airport, and I was leaving to go back to Minnesota. I had to catch that flight. I had to be on that airplane because it was the only flight that would make the connection to get to a bull riding I was going to announce that following afternoon. And I got to the airport, checked in my car, and Portland Airport in the early morning hours, there was nobody around. Nobody. There weren't any skycaps taking the baggage. There wasn't anybody in where I checked the car in. And I sat down and I thought, how in the world am I going to, on crutches, get 3 bags toted all the way over to the terminal and make that flight? And I sat down and I just prayed. I says, Lord, boy, if there's anybody that can help me, please send them my way. And I'll tell you what, 10 minutes later, here comes this guy through the dark terminal where I checked in the car, and he walked right up to me and he says, looks like you might need a hand, sir. And I said, yes, I do. And you can't tell me he wasn't an angel, Frosty. He got me to that flight with just minutes to spare.
Wonderful, wonderful. And there are so many angels out there, and they are sent to us in different ways. And boy, when they do arrive on your doorstep, always be thankful and always be appreciative and always receive. And at some point, you too can give. And that really, in the end, is giving of yourself and becoming an angel yourself. Really, is the essence of being alive. So we're all blessed.
Frosty, I wanted to ask you this morning, and I know your thoughts on this. I was outraged last week when I heard the mayor of Philadelphia basically has signed a bill within his city that says, nope, I'm not going to honor the federal law. Nope, nobody's going to tell me what to do. Nobody's going to tell me that I have to limit anything. I'm going to just go ahead and stop the deportation of illegals out of my city. Frosty, what in the world are these people doing, aiding and abetting illegals and breaking the law, and they don't care?
Well, I really hope everybody appreciates that right now the Kansas City shooter that shot 18 cars is a Muslim immigrant.
Yes.
Did you get that, folks? And you will not hear that. You will not hear that on Brian Williams. You won't hear it from Diane Sawyer. You won't hear it from Scott Pelley. You won't hear it from any of the mainstream news. But another, just like Melville, the guy that was shooting everybody up there in Virginia years back, and that kid named, I think it was John, whatever it was. But now we have the Boston Marathon, and you never hear anybody talking about the fact that these were Muslim jihadists who immigrated to our country, were living on our welfare dole, and now this Muslim there in Kansas City for the last couple of weeks has been shooting cars and literally almost injured people, and he's been getting away with it. Finally got caught. He's now in federal court, 18 indictments for attempted murder, and his name is Muhammad. I can't even say his last name, but he's another immigrant, a Muslim immigrant, and these people don't like us. The whole Muslim religion doesn't like free speech, choice of religion. Free choice, doesn't like women at all, degrades them beyond the level of a dog, and yet you won't hear anything on the press. And again, the fact that all of our top elected representatives are supposed to carry out the rule of law and the Constitution are not doing that with illegal immigrants, period. And yet, in fact, are importing more and more of these Muslims and or Mexicans who are breaking our laws, and any illegal that's breaking our laws, and even the legal ones. And I guess this Muslim immigrant was just like the other 2 Boston Marathon bombers of legal immigrants. And we got to ask ourselves, why are we importing jihadi, Islamic, Muslim immigrants into our country, knowing that a definite percentage of these people are crazy people, besides the whole religion itself is crazy. But we all are at risk for this. And if that mayor in Philadelphia had his kids shot up and or raped by some illegal immigrants, whether they're Mexican or whether they're Islamic or whatever they are, he would change his tune. But mostly the people in high places put their kids into private schools, and they go where there's no chance that they can get hurt. and they stand behind the gated gates. And so that's why they get to do that thing, and the rest of us get to pay the price.
Well, look at what happened with the young woman that was from the Middle East, and she spoke out against Islam and spoke out about the treatment of women and was invited to get an award at Brandeis University, but she spoke out against Islam, and Brandeis University put its tail between its legs, canceled her award, canceled her speaking because they were afraid of Muslim backlash on this subject. What you said is 100% correct. They are not caring, they are not giving, and they absolutely are putting fatwas, death notices, out on people that speak against them.
You got it. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that everyone is joining the organizations that I really tout every week, and that's capsweb.org and numbersusa.org, and certainly FAIR, FAIRUS.org, because if you don't empower yourself by getting into the collective numbers of CAPSWeb and numbersusa.org, ladies and gentlemen, this onslaught, this immigration invasion, both legally and illegally, will continue to just wash over, flood our country, invade our country with people that have no clue, no understanding of what this constitutional republic stands for, and in fact, millions of them want to destroy it. And that is, in the final analysis, for anybody out there that understands anything or read the Quran, which I have read many parts of the Quran doing the series I did on Muslims in America and around Europe, it's terrifying that this religion is being just illegally imported into this country, and that its adherents want to push Sharia law and displace the Constitution and this constitutional republic. We have got to be crazy out of our minds, and especially these godforsaken, like the Philadelphia mayor and the rest of these characters who are making sure we don't enforce our laws. And that goes right up to the president, because the president of the United States is not enforcing the immigration laws. All of the sanctuary cities across this country, and the governors, and our own Hickenlooper here in Denver, Colorado, he was a mayor and then the governor. He does not enforce the immigration laws whatsoever, and so we're all going to pay the consequences. That is what's happening, and it's going to continue, and it's going to get worse as we degrade our country down to a third world country, because again, we are about to import no less than 100 million third world immigrants from 150 countries around the world in the next 36 years. That includes Somalians, that includes Sudanese, that includes Congo people, Zaire's, Zimbabweans, Kenyans, Chinese, Indians from India, Bangladeshis from Bangladesh, Mexicans from Mexico. Everybody is flooding into this country, ladies and gentlemen, and fleeing the countries that they created, only to recreate those same conditions in our own country. I don't know why I can't understand why no one sees this as clearly as you and I see this thing, Zeb, but as long as I have a ability, I'm going to speak up and write up about this, because what we're facing is literally nation and civilization destroying future because of immigration.
Well, add my name to the bottom of the page as a signature that stands behind you on this. I was absolutely appalled the other day when I turned on the news and I happened to catch the latter part of an interview with about 3 or 4 younger people, probably in their mid-20s, and they were being interviewed about borders, both the northern border to Canada and our southern border to Mexico, and they all sat there and were in total agreement that we should absolutely abolish borders and become a continent of where people could go and come as they want to. Frosty, my goodness, with this kind of mindset for the younger generation, what the values of America and the blood, sweat, and tears that our forefathers died for, it's gone. It's going to be diminished to nothing.
Well, not only that, and what these people for the North Atlantic, the whole continent of North America becoming one country or one area, what no one realizes is that we will be the receptacle, we will be the pool, if you will, that's empty, that will be flooded with the third world, and that all of our standard of living, all of our quality of life, all of our spiritual cohesion, our flag cohesion, that which makes us a nation state, that which has made us so successful, will be completely and totally destroyed in this, you could call it a polyglot, you could call it a salad bowl, you can call it you can call it a big mess, is what you can call it, and that the American way of life will no longer exist. We will be like, if you've been to India, ladies and gentlemen, there are about 50-odd different religions. There's Pakis, there's Indians, there's Muslims, there's Krishnas, there's Hindus. There's so much poverty over there, and they just can't solve it because they have no single cohesive state. And the filth and the trash and the garbage and the water contamination and the rivers run like pure sewage will never get fixed. And that's what's coming to America, Zeb. I've seen it. I am a messenger. It's sad. I'm sad for so much of humanity because I've seen so much of the sadness of humanity in Asia and South America and Mexico. But what is the point of bringing all of that misery and the human misery index? It's called the human misery index. What is the point of bringing it and injecting it into our country? And who is doing this, and why are we, the American people, not standing up and saying enough immigration? Stop all immigration. I don't understand it, but I got to tell you, I hope everyone out there is nodding your heads right now and then taking action with the websites I give you, because this thing is coming at us, and it's not stopping unless we, the American people, stop it. And I don't see us stopping it at this point. I've been working like a fool for the last 10 years trying to educate the American people, 1,500 radio shows, national TV, and no one wants to deal with this thing, and so they just let it keep going on, and that's what's going on, and it's going to continue to get worse until we do degrade ourselves into a third world country.
Well, real quick, I've only got a minute left on this, Frosty, but what you just said is really true. I know that you've been waving the banner for what's going to happen and what is happening in this country. Why won't the major networks, why won't the major talk shows, why won't they give credence to you and let you on to spread the message? Why are they covering it up?
That's the great question of the 21st century, because they're going to be living in this country also when this mess finally comes to fruition. I think there are other people in this country that have so much power that they don't think what's coming at us is going to affect them. And since it won't affect them, it won't affect Soros, it won't affect Warren Buffett, it won't affect Bill Gates, it won't affect the mayor of New York and the governors of this country, because they'll all be in places where they can't get touched by it. And they won't have to move into the cities. They won't have to drive through the nightmares. They won't have to drive in Kansas traffic where a Muslim is shooting cars off the highway. They won't have to run in the Boston Marathon where a couple of Muslims blew up a bunch of people. And that they feel immune to it. And so that's what we're facing. That's what's going on. And that's why you don't see it stopping. And in fact, the biggest thing is these capitalistic guys want more people to have more purchases and more everything bought up, and don't realize the end result of it is 100 million. In other words, the doubling of the populations of our 20 most populated cities. It's a nightmare. They're forcing on us, and the American people just aren't aware enough, except the ones that are listening to this show and the other shows that I go on weekly. They don't understand what's going on, and fewer are taking any action whatsoever.
Absolutely. Frosty, our time goes way too fast. God's blessings to you, and I'll look forward to next Monday. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado. Thank you, my dear friend, and have a good week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Zeb.
God bless. Thank you. Very, very dear friend, Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado. Hey, by the way, I want to remind you, too, that I keep telling you this, to think about life insurance. Do you have some? Are you adequately protected? What about health insurance? What about your retirement planning? What about your employee benefits for your business? Ooh, kind of triggered a little thought, did we? Well, maybe you'd better call Dean Cameron and Todd Siemens at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Absolutely the number to call, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, serving you. Don't put it off. Call them today. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Oh my, and I want to remind you too, before we get our next guest on the phone, that there's a lot of big things going on over at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More at 459 Overland in Burley. They have more and more furniture coming in every day. I mean, whether it's sofas, whether it's all the accessories, whether it's the end tables, whether it's the lamps, whether it's the carpet, whether it's the mattresses. You know, and one thing I'm really high on is the huge selection of recliners over there at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More. Now, you're saying, well, here's a chair, there's a chair, everywhere a chair. No. They all fit people differently. You've got to get in and try on a recliner so that it absolutely fits you and your comfort. I did. Believe me, I've got a... The other day, I got to tell you the story. They had to take my chair out of here for a couple days, and I wanted it refurbished. I've had it a long time. I would not think about getting rid of that chair. It's a beautiful, wonderful chair, and I absolutely love it. It fits me perfectly. Yes, we got the recliners from Lee's Furniture, Floors and More. Service fantastic. You're going to love the people. You're going to love all the choices for your comfort and beautification of your home. Lee's Furniture, Floors and More. And while I have just a quick moment, I also want to remind you about Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Don't forget, Lennox Home Comfort Systems with gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, etc. Your family will enjoy the comfort. And don't forget, you give a call to 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, along with Lennox. We're going to go to the phone line right now. My old buddy Scotty Cameron's running the board for us this morning. Gina has a day off, deservedly, and I want to thank Scott again publicly for everything he's doing over there to keep us on the air and keep us rolling this morning. Thanks, Scott. And with us on the telephone with the Alliance Defending Freedom, Jordan Lawrence. Jordan, good morning. How are you, sir?
It's good to be on the show.
It's always nice to have you back. You know, we're going to talk a little bit this morning about the Bronx Household of Faith versus the Board of Education of the City of New York. Give us a little background as to why this is such a kind of a sad story as to what's happening with our churches back in the big city of New York.
Well, in most communities around the country, even in big cities like Chicago or Los Angeles, it's no big deal for a church or other kind of religious group to rent a school facility on the weekend for a worship service. And it may be surprising for people to know New York City bans that practice. You can rent a public high school to have a dance recital or a labor union meeting or even to film episodes of Law and Order, but you cannot rent an empty building on a weekend for a worship service. And Alliance Defending Freedom has been involved on and off since 1995 with a lawsuit. We're representing one church, Bronx Household of Faith, to overturn that policy.
Well, now, when you say they can't go in there, now there's no students there, there's no school activities going on, there's no solicitation, if you will, for people to be a part of their church or go to the services. Why in the world would they be against the usage of the building?
Well, they have asserted that they think it looks bad and that people could be confused, and that there's sort of this symbolic union of church and state. But there's no such thing. I mean, if the Pope has a Mass in Central Park, it just means that the city accommodates religious groups in their public spaces. It doesn't mean that the government is endorsing the Catholic Church by allowing the Pope to meet there. It's the same thing with the public schools. I just think it's a extreme overreaction and an extreme application of separation of church and state thinking.
Jordan, what are they afraid of? Are they afraid of somebody saying something so that they might get sued? Are they afraid of Christianity? Are they afraid? What are they afraid of?
Well, they think that people are going to be offended. They think that people, that impressionable youth will be influenced, even though there's no impressionable youth there to be, to be influenced wrongly, that type of thing. And I think it's just generally there's some mindset that, religion is a private matter. This is what they think. And that to allow it in public buildings that are open to everybody else would somehow embarrassingly state that religion is important. Religion should be a open part of community life. And I think that that's tragic when you see these churches rolling up their sleeves, moving into these neighborhoods, many of them very poor neighborhoods, helping the people there get off drugs, put their marriages back together, etc. This is something that the city should be encouraging, not denying.
Jordan, 30 years ago, this wouldn't have happened. 30 years ago, they probably would have been welcomed with open arms. 30 years ago. But why today? Why today is there such a absolute, and I underline that word, a revolt and death knell that they give out against Christianity?
Well, I think that this has been a policy that's been kind of unique to New York State and New York City for quite some time. And I think that it just shows where an extreme view of separation of church and state has taken root. And there's been other cities over the years that have had these policies. They've been struck down by courts. But New York is sort of the epicenter of this way of thinking, and that's why I think they've been so tenacious in fighting this. Now, I would say that the new mayor de Blasio, has said he is going to repeal the policy, which he has the authority to do. Now, as of today, he hasn't done so yet. He's made repeated promises in the last few weeks that he would, but he hasn't done so yet. So maybe there is a change in the atmosphere in New York City where this hostility towards religious or this embarrassment about religion, go off and practice your religion in the back corner somewhere, maybe that's changing with the mayor's attitudes.
With your lawsuit, basically, what do you, on behalf of Alliance Defending Freedom, what do you want? What do you hope for the final outcome in this case?
Well, what we hope is that that we have a declaration that the policy is unconstitutional, that it violates the freedom of speech rights and the free exercise of religion rights of religious groups, to single them out and say, you can't meet. I mean, they could meet if they were going to have like a first aid class, but they can't meet when they have a worship service. And we want a court to clearly say that's unconstitutional. We're concerned that if the final court decision in this is to uphold the policy, other cities around the country might try to do this and begin to erode this important principle of equal access of religious groups to empty government buildings and other spaces.
Mm-hmm. I would be amiss if I didn't ask you a couple of comments regarding what took place over the weekend with the Holy Week last week of Easter. And it seems like the atheists in our society, they really waited till the 11th hour, and then bang, they came out with a concentrated effort to belittle and almost try to disdain Christianity. They did it in Chicago, they did it in Wisconsin, they did it in New York with signs against Christianity and signs against Christ. They seem to be getting a louder mouthpiece every year, do they not?
I think that there is clearly, the atheist movement is clearly been somewhat more aggressive and activist in what they've been doing. We've been seeing a lot of their cases to challenging any type of governmental acknowledgement of a religion or a religious heritage. If there's a prayer at a government meeting, if there's some sort of 10 Commandments on the walls, they are there to sue. We've had groups like the ACLU, which is not technically an atheist group, but has been very adamant against us in New York City that the churches shouldn't be allowed to meet. And I think that this is just the spirit of the age, and that we have to basically keep asserting not only the truth of Christianity, but for even the people that either doubt or disagree that Christianity is true, we have U.S. constitutional traditions of allowing freedom of speech, free exercise of religion, and not having the government censor them. What I am concerned about is what these atheist groups are basically arguing in many of these cases, that the Establishment Clause requires the government to single out religious users and to censor them. That would be very, very detrimental to our First Amendment rights if that very extreme and twisted view of the Establishment Clause were to take root in more and more places.
You know, I was also appalled over the weekend listening to some of the negatives about Easter and the crucifixion of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but the atheists went after Clemson University, and they're really looking at Clemson right now and targeting them, saying that there's too much Christianity with the football team.
Well, I am not familiar with what's been going on there, but if this is private expression by the students who happen to be football players, there's no government action. Here's a big secret: only the government can violate the Constitution. So, if some private person is praying or preaching the gospel or something like that, or conducting a worship service, there is no government endorsement by merely accommodating somebody who, a private individual, who is exercising his or her First Amendment rights. Mm-hmm. And many people wrongly think that the government, the Establishment Clause requires the various levels of government to go on a search and destroy mission for all things religious, and that is simply not the case.
You know, Jordan, in all the years that you...
Plus, I think Clemson's a private school.
That's right.
I might be wrong on that. I don't know, what the atheist beef is there. They're a private school. They can do whatever they want.
Well, and have you ever, in your history as being an attorney and working with the Alliance Defending Freedom, ever anticipated we would be at this point in America right now to where basically Christianity is being thwarted, Christianity is under attack from all angles? I never thought that in my lifetime I'd see this happen.
No, I think that this is very, very sad to see. The only thing that encourages me is that if you read the book of Acts, it seems like what we're going through is more like that, where you have generally a non-Christian society, with a lot of immorality and weird thinking, and the Christians are out there having to make an effect. Now, I realize that one difference is that the Roman Empire didn't start with a Christian heritage by its founders, and that is very, very tragic that we seem to have abandoned a lot of the things that our founders gave to us. But I think in every day, every age, every time in history, the Christians need to rise up and be faithful no matter what the current circumstances are like. And this is very discouraging, especially if you feel like things have been going in the wrong direction since, in the last 30, 50 years, something like that. But for our children, our children's children, and people who need to hear the gospel, I think these First Amendment issues are important to fight for, and that's why groups like Alliance Defending Freedom are doing so.
Absolutely. Now, with that being said, tell everyone in my audience, please, how they can follow this case that we've talked about this morning and others through the Alliance Defending Freedom. Tell us about the websites and everything else, please.
Well, we have our website at alliancedefendingfreedom.org. And they also can call us at 1-800-TEL-ADF if you have a legal situation involving religious liberty or freedom of speech, the pro-life movement, or the definition of marriage battle that we've been fighting in this country. Please give us a call to see if we can help you out, because if we all stand together to fight for our liberties, then we will all be stronger. And there is power and encouragement and hope that's given when we're all working together, and that's what our alliance is all about.
Absolutely. I want to thank again Jordan Lawrence for taking the time to come on our program this morning on behalf of the Alliance Defending Freedom, and I mean this one. God bless you.
As always.
Thank you, sir. God bless. Very nice man right there, and very knowledgeable about what's going on with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Glad to have him on the program. I think what we'll do is have a weather forecast right now, and the weather this hour is brought to us by Red's Trading Post. I love that store. I love the people. Man, they know all about guns, ammo, and accessories. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, and don't forget they give top dollar on trade-in on firearms. Nobody gives you more than Red's Trading Post, and they've got a great, great selection down there of all the different guns, ammo, accessories, plus they've got great people that are very knowledgeable at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. And here now, Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. First of many broadcasts that I'll be giving you as far as your weather forecast, as I'm sitting here outside of North Pole, Alaska. As far as the Idaho weather is concerned, well, it gets a pretty nice day for today. Summer clouds, temperatures in the we're going to go upper 60s, maybe low 70s, maybe 71. Overnight lows are not going to be that much of a problem for today, and also for tomorrow. So otherwise, have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Red's Trading Post. And, of course, we're going to have Ryan on the air in the next couple of days. 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. All your guns, ammo, and accessories. You know, a little bit earlier last hour, I was talking to Scotty Cameron. Scotty, I got another little subject I want to ask you about, because you and I have been very vocal about our freedoms and about the Constitution and everything. Are you there by the microphone?
You bet.
Okay. I don't know if you caught this story or not. It was in the paper the other day, but there was a headline on the front page of the Times News said, "The militia wants you. Recruits are wanted in the Twin Falls area for the Lightfoot militia." Now, I don't know what your thoughts are about militias, but, you know, they've got some extreme rules that I think follow along with the guidelines of anything like the militia of 200 years ago. They are demanding that members obey the laws of war and cites zero tolerance for racism and criminal violence. Women are allowed to join but are banned from the combat units, and they must be trained in firearms and basic skills and knowledge, and they must understand the Constitution. You know something, Scotty? What's wrong with belonging to the militia?
I don't think there's anything wrong with belonging to the militia.
Now, I know you want to expand on it further than that. Now, come on. Well, you know, there's been a lot of negativity about militias. There's been a lot of negativity about gun ownership. There's been op-eds, even in our local paper, the Times News, that are against, you know, certain things that people are worried about. Quite frankly, I think the day is coming and looms on the horizon where possibly belonging to a militia is not going to be a bad thing at all.
Well, you know, I'm going to tell you, you look at what's going on in our government, and you look at what's going on, you know, in the world, and there's going to come a time where we're going to need somebody that's going to be able to stand up and defend the rights that we hold dear, and the militia is a great way to do that.
Now, Scotty, you know a lot about history and the Constitution and the values of law, and you, I'm sure, know that the county sheriff supersedes the federal government when it comes to taking power in the county, do you not?
I do.
Okay. Did you read this story that was in the paper about the militias?
I did not catch the story.
Well, I'm going to read a little quote from the paper, and I'll let you kind of expand on it. It said, quote, "When militias start up, they usually contact the sheriff first." And then they had a quote from Sheriff Carter of Twin Falls County. And Carter said, because they, the militias, believe the sheriff is the true authority, not the federal government. Scotty, it's not a point of whether they believe the sheriff has the authority or not. That is the truth, and that is the law. The sheriff does have the authority.
You know, I totally agree with that, and the sheriff is, I mean, this is his domain, and, you know, if it didn't like the way that one sheriff ran things back in the old days, you moved on down to the next town, and, you know, that's kind of how it was.
Well, you know, when you were back there in the Midwest, and again, I revert back to the Dakotas in the oil boom that's going on, I would imagine you saw a lot of patriotism and heard a lot of people that were really gung-ho for oil production in this country just to get away from the imports of foreign oil, and also to reestablish ourselves as a country that's going to take over number one in the world again. What were the attitudes of the people back there?
You know, the attitude of the people was, come in, make ourselves self-reliant, not be beholden to the OPEC and things like that. I mean, like, we have the things here that we need to take care of ourselves. Why are we buying it at an elevated price from some people that we have no control over what they set the price at? And, they're like, let's do this right here, right now. And it truly kind of felt like, you were at the beginning of something special there.
Well, now, I don't mean to embarrass you, but now you're quite a bit younger than I am, but what is the age distance right now? You're about what, 39, 38?
Yes, 38.
Okay, 38 years old. Why do you suppose, and it's really interesting to have somebody your age working with me on this program, and I've got to ask you this. The other night, as I mentioned to Frosty, I was sitting there and I was absolutely shocked and appalled when they had an interview with like 4 people, maybe a little younger than you, but they were all saying, we need to do away with borders. We all need to live together. There shouldn't be anything as borders. We should all go from Canada to Mexico. Everything should be underneath one circumstance of law and order and rules. What do you think about that?
Well, it's like I kind of mentioned earlier talking about the sheriffs. If you didn't like the way the sheriff ran the town, you moved on to the next. And we here in the United States are something special in the fact that our basis of government has never been done before. I mean, it was a big experiment, and it has been inspired, by supreme beings, I believe, and that it is the best way to go. And that's great. If you want to come here and do your, be part of that, do it. But obey our laws, respect our laws, and do it the right way. I mean, America was based on immigration, and that's the way it should be. And you get all these different cultures kind of melding together, but you got to come and be an American.
Yeah, but they're not melding anymore. They're not melting anymore. It used to be, and I used this analogy the other day, Scott, we used to be the melting pot, where you look at like a funnel. You pour everything into the top of the funnel, and it melts, and it comes out as a single cohesive unit out of the bottom. And now all these people that are coming in, and I want to hear you respond to this, all these people, whether they're Muslims or whether they're Mexicans or whatever country they're coming from, they're starting their own little sects, if you will, in their areas, and they're starting their own little countries like they ran from, and they're trying to change the laws in this country. It's no longer a melting pot.
I agree 110% with that, especially when you take into account, those that come over here and want to impose Sharia law.
Yeah.
That just does not fit with the American way we do things. And if you want to be an American, awesome. Come on. I will accept you with open arms and a hug, and let's do it. But come over here and be an American.
But why this administration? We're seeing them stifle us with a lack of energy, wind energy and solar energy. Scotty, you've been around agriculture all your life. You're not going to push one of those great big John Deeres down the field with a little propeller on the back. We are looking at a complete disruption of progress in this country with a lack of an energy plan. We're looking at a complete disruption in this country of a lack of any kind of foreign policy, respect for our borders. This administration should be, and I'm going to say this, should be damned for what they've done to America.
Agreed. Just come on in here. I understand people want to make things better. That's great. I'm all for progress. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater in the process.
Absolutely. Well, when you were back there, of course you went back at the worst time of the year. I don't like cold, and I got to ask you this question because I heard stories about how cold it really was. Is it true that one day you got up and your shoes were frozen to the floor?
As a matter of fact, that happened on several different days, and one of the things, I'd keep my iced tea jar around. We actually had to put the iced tea jar in the oven with the pilot light on so that the iced tea would be liquid in the morning.
Oh, my goodness. Now, what kind of a living facility were you in back there? I mean, was it kind of like a camp trailer, a house, or what were you living in?
Yeah, my friend and I, Tony, we were living together in a 16-foot travel trailer, and we had 3 heaters inside that trailer, and it was all they could do to keep up, to keep us warm. And I actually used an electric blanket for the first time in my life ever in North Dakota.
Now, did you stack straw around the outside of that thing, or how did they keep the vehicles running? I mean, we're talking about 30, 40 below back there. How did you manage to even exist?
It's really, really tough, and I got to hand it to the folks that do that. But you pull into parking lots, and all the parking lots have these big stubs, I guess you will, that have electricity, and everybody plugs their vehicles in. Everybody pulls their windshield wipers off their windows when they go into a store. Diesel trucks, they stay running 24 hours a day. And that's just kind of how they keep things going, and insulation is a key factor in that, or, you're going to freeze.
Now, what exact area were you in, and what were the temperatures as far as the lows were concerned while you were there?
We were up in Minot, and we, experienced 30 below at the time. But the thing about that is not really so much as the cold, but the wind comes straight out of the north, and it comes howling. And we had, wind chills of 70 below.
Oh, my goodness. And the vehicles basically were never shut off, some of them, right?
That's correct, yeah. If you shut your vehicles off, they were gelled up and they weren't going again.
That's not a very good travel brochure for the Chamber of Commerce back there in the wintertime.
Yeah, their deal's not the climate. It's the money going on right now. And I one of the things too that I noticed when I was up in North Dakota, the people, the local people, had kind of shut off, from the people that were coming in and around, and we're not as friendly as the people are here.
Really? Okay. But the oil production, is it expanding in those areas? Are they at a limitation right now? Give us just a real quick recap before I do my last commercial this hour. Is it able to expand much more in the future, or are they limited by space and also geography?
Zeb, they're just now hitting the tip of the iceberg, what's going on up in North Dakota. I look for expansion to come on. They are expanding as we speak. And I think, that if things go right, we could be, self-sufficient in the Dakotas and all these other areas as well.
Wow. Interesting. Scotty, I appreciate having you on the air this morning. It's been a long time since we've had a chance to visit. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, sir. Hey, don't forget Let's Ride. Now, they're closed on Mondays, and you're probably saying to yourself, well, now, just a minute, are they? Well, yes, they are. They're closed on Mondays, but they're open Tuesdays through Saturdays. And let me tell you something, folks. They have got all the ATVs for fun outside this summer. I mean, all the ATVs. They've got the Can-Am side-by-sides, rebates and great financing. They've got all the dirt bikes, 0% financing for 5 years. Oh, I'm telling you, folks, you walk in the showroom door and just stop right inside the door, look around, and there's ATVs of every size and color and all the accessories and people there to serve you, and they've got a great big service department, the best you'll ever find. All of this and more, where the fun is sold, and that is Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 9 to 6. Let's Ride. Now, coming up next hour, we're going to be talking to Bill Bullard up at RCAF USA up in Montana. We're going to be talking to him about the problem down in Nevada with the Bundy family versus the BLM. And then at 10:30 this morning, we have Dave Keeley. Did I just hear the cow moo? Have I got a call?
No.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Scotty. Dave Keeley from Ottawa, Illinois. Now, I want to give you a little background on that. The folks at Ottawa have been tuning into our program quite a bit lately as we stood up for their shop program and also their teacher and the students. They want to keep the shop program going. Not everybody is college-bound material, and these kids that want to be electricians, that want to be welders, that want to learn how to use their hands, there's a lot of need for them, and I'll stand up till my dying trying day for shop classes, and especially the teacher we're going to have on, Mr. Dave Keeley. All of that coming up on Zeb at the Ranch for the next hour. Don't you go away. Right now, ABC News. Oh, welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday. Good morning, everybody. And, of course, we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. You get on the route service today, 734-6969. Before we get our guest on the program, I want to remind you, too, about what's going on at the Chadwick Sports Grill. I love this place. You're going to love the food. And today they've got a special of beef stroganoff with garlic toast, super salad. Oh, that is good. Beef stroganoff, it sounds oh so delicious. Take a look at the entire menu. Absolutely. It is a dandy menu with really nice people. Great surroundings at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and have lunch there today. Really good, folks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have not had this next gentleman on our program for quite some time, and I'm looking forward to his comments regarding the cattle industry with RCAF USA CEO Bill Bullard. Bill, good morning. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing fine. Thanks, Seb. Glad to be here.
Well, I tell you what, you folks up in Montana had a cold winter, and how are things looking going into spring right now?
Well, it really looks good. The grass is greening up. We've got a lot of surface moisture, and we're waiting for a lot of the snow yet to melt from the mountains. So right now, things look very good.
Bill, we've got some problems in this country, and they seem to be developing into more confrontational issues with the government because of their bullying attitude. And most recently, the problem down in Nevada with rancher Cliven Bundy, of which I'll say up front, I know the Bundy family. I've known the Bundy family for over 40 years. What are your thoughts about what took place down there last week with the BLM and the Bundys?
Well, obviously there has been a decades-long conflict between the Bundys and the federal government, and the Bundys aren't alone. In the state of Nevada, there's been litigation going on for decades with Wayne Hage's family over the same issue, over the question of whether or not ranchers who run on federally controlled land have vested water rights and rights to graze that property, rights that have accumulated over time and based on prior court decisions. And so the court decisions essentially say the answer to the question is yes, that these ranchers who have been running their cattle on federal controlled lands do in fact have rights to the water and rights to the forage. And then the question is what degree do those rights have in relationship to the government's efforts to strictly manage the grazing? In other words, we've seen instances where the government tried to either severely reduce or eliminate grazing altogether that essentially puts the rancher out of business. And in the Cliven Bundy situation, he's had a dispute with the federal government for 20 years, and the federal government tried to eliminate his grazing permits from the land that he's been on, and he's had generations of the Bundys have been running cattle on that land. The government wanted them out, took steps to do it, and they took a very aggressive stance here, a bullying tactic, as you described. And the first thing we learned was that there was an armed confrontation going on the Bundy Ranch, that the federal government had brought in sharpshooters and helicopters, and they were going to, by gunpoint, confiscate the Bundy's cattle. This raised serious red flags. It raised questions as to whether or not the Bundys had been properly afforded their due process rights. It also raised questions as to whether the federal government was even abiding by state laws. Were they following the state brand laws? Were they following the new animal identification laws? Even though we don't like it, it is the law. And these unanswered questions had not yet been answered. We're pleased. We wrote a letter to the Secretary of the Interior asking her to cease efforts to confiscate the Bundy cattle by gunpoint. And we said we make no judgment as to the non-payment of grazing fees, which has been kind of a lightning rod here, because we know that the federal government has taken action against ranchers, even those that had been paying the grazing fees. That indicates to us that there's something deeper going on here. And recently, within a year ago, a federal judge in Nevada found that there was an intentional conspiracy on the part of the government to remove the Hages or eliminate their water rights as well as their permits. And the court made the statement that the actions of the federal government shocked the conscience of the court. There's a serious problem going on out west. It needs to be resolved. And hopefully the Bundy situation will allow more reasonable minds to look at this and come up with a solution. And we offered to assist in that matter to the Secretary of the Interior. We haven't heard back, but we said we would like to help resolve this matter in a way that does not deprive the Bundys of their rights and does not force Cliven Bundy out of business.
Now, Bill, and I'm not playing devil's advocate, I'm just creating both sides of the story here. You know I've been in the livestock business all my life, so you know where my true passion lies. But when I talk to other ranchers in this area, and I don't know how it is up in Montana, so share with me, but when I talk to some of the ranchers here, they were afraid that the acts of not paying the BLM their grazing fees would have a retribution against all ranchers and that the BLM would become much more forceful. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that's a valid concern. We do not condone the non-payment of grazing fees. But under the circumstances we're dealing with here, I don't know that the non-payment of grazing fees even matters. It appears in this case that there was a tortoise that was designated as an endangered species, and as a result, the government wanted to cease all grazing on the properties that Cliven Bundy has been grazing. So under that, with that information, it does not appear that the grazing fees was the cause of the government's aggressive action here. And that's the same situation that all ranchers that run on federal lands are facing today. It's a high degree of uncertainty. Uncertainty as to whether or not a new species would be designated as an endangered species, or that there would be a new reintroduction of predators, both of which could either eliminate the opportunity for ranchers to continue grazing or could make it uneconomical to graze federal lands that are integral to these ranchers' operations. Mm-hmm. We need a solution that provides more certainty. The act of defiance, that is the act of withholding grazing permits, is not the answer here. We'll have to see how that plays out in the Bundy situation. But for other ranchers running on federal lands, we need to afford them greater certainty regarding the future prospects of continuing to manage that land that they've been managing for in some cases over 100 years, and managing it in such a good way that it has promoted wildlife, promoted vegetation, and has in fact decreased the incidences of terrible fires, because by the act of grazing cattle, you eliminate that underbrush that is a terrible fuel during fire season. So there's some huge benefits to be derived, but that uncertainty continues to wave over the heads of just virtually every rancher that continues to run on federally controlled lands.
Bill, there was a lot of ambiguity over the way that this was handled about the desert tortoise, and I want to kind of belabor that point a little bit. Supposedly, this endangered species, the desert tortoise, was used as a vehicle, if you will, to run the Bundys off. However, it has been documented, and I think proven with a lot of the stories I have laying here on my desk, that many of the BLM officials had moved the desert tortoise to other areas, and some some and many had been euthanized, basically killed by the BLM because they had an overabundance of them. Now, had that been a private citizen moving the tortoise or euthanizing the tortoise, they'd be in prison probably for the next 40 years, but the BLM gets away with it.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, but Deb, I don't have any firsthand knowledge regarding that. It is indeed bizarre, but I really don't have enough information to comment on that.
Well, you know, whether you want to comment on that or not, I mean, we all know about the destruction of property to the Bundys. We all know how the BLM tried to regulate and maintain little First Amendment areas to where people could exercise free speech, which was totally ridiculous. These are things that got completely out of hand, and it was almost like a Gestapo action.
Well, and that's what concerned us, because essentially what has happened here is our Secretary of the Interior, through the Bureau of Land Management, has really made a global spectacle of themselves through this totally irresponsible, unprofessional, and possibly unconstitutional action on the part of the federal government. They moved in and were headed for a fight. They brought in guns, they brought in war equipment, military equipment, and this, I think, was uncalled for, and that's what prompted us to write a letter and say, back off. This does not meet any semblance of prudence or justice. This appears to be an untoward action by the federal government with the intention of spreading a political message. And we said that's just plain wrong.
You know, and I got to also inject here that I find it highly offensive that Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid would weigh in and make very inflammable statements like calling the Bundy family and other ranchers domestic terrorists. Now, I've got to have you respond to that.
Absolutely irresponsible. Shows that they have no understanding whatsoever of the relationship between ranchers and the federally controlled land that these ranchers have been managing in such a superior and beneficial way as to, again, to promote wildlife, to promote multiple uses. What we have here is a government who is outside the bounds of the constraints of the Constitution and of our the rule of law, and they are essentially acting as if they have no constraints on them. And so I think we're just very, it's important and absolutely necessary for the government to have taken the action that they did. They had to withdraw from this action. They did so. And now what they do in going forward is going to be extremely important for all of us to watch. Will they now afford the Bundys their constitutional rights to due process? Will they follow state law? And will they treat him fairly? Will they treat him with justice to try and resolve this matter in a way that allows the Bundy family to continue ranching as they have and their fathers have and their fathers before them have?
Yeah, but you touched on what I'm about to say a little bit earlier in your discussion with me. I'm very, very concerned that this might be just the tip of the iceberg in more confrontations and conflagrations with grazing, ranching, and environmentalists through the government. I'm very concerned that this administration leans and kowtows to the environmentalists, and really they'll do anything that they demand. What are your thoughts about what I just said?
Well, I think there's clearly evidence to support that, but I think it's also very important to know that these conflicts have been going on for 20 years. I was down in the Ruby Valley area of Nevada several years ago and was talking to ranchers who were subjected to the same kind of aggressive behavior by the BLM. In one instance, the BLM pulled a gun on an unarmed rancher, and they used helicopters to try to confiscate cattle. So these problems have been going on long before this administration. This is a systemic problem. The problem of how do we ensure that ranching operations are indeed afforded the multiple use goals for these federally controlled lands and are treated fairly and justly. That's our interest in this. But yes, what we see here is egregious. Everybody saw it on the news. It's been highlighted. And the reason it is because over the course of 20 years, several presidential administrations, the discontent for this Congress, the discontent is becoming more and more acute. It's reaching a boiling point. And that's what we're seeing with the militia out there, is that goes far deeper than just the action against the Bundys to try to remove them from this land. That's an indication that there is a growing discontent and a growing disfavor for the way that our government is currently operating. And this has been brewing for over 20 years.
Bill, if you had the power today and all eyes were on you and your desk to settle this problem, in a perfect world with the rulings that you could come up with that would be fair to everybody, what's the best way to handle this problem, nip it in the bud so it doesn't happen again?
Well, there has to be first a clear understanding and delineation of the ranchers' grazing rights and water rights, and then a scientific-based mitigation measure in order to accommodate the desert tortoise or other species. And until we have a truly unbiased scientific analysis of whether or not running cattle, and in this instance, you had cattle running on several hundred acres, one cow per several hundred acres. It is not likely that one cow is going to have a disruptive result to the tortoise. But in any event, we have to have a clear understanding and a respect for those water rights, a respect for their rights to graze, and in a situation where the vagaries of weather dictate that you simply cannot raise that many, there should be a discussion between the rancher and the federal government as to how to address this. Do they cut back in the terms of all the grazing permit numbers, or do they essentially set some of that pasture fallow for a year? In some instances, and I think the ranchers would be very willing to accommodate legitimate concerns on a year-by-year basis as to the number of animals that they can continue to graze. But to remove ranchers from lands that they have been grazing for over a century and that have grazed in harmony with wildlife and with vegetation is just plain wrong. And we're seeing an exodus of ranchers across the United States, both from private operations as well as from federally controlled operations. We have a systemic problem, needs to be resolved. And first and foremost, we need to respect the right of ranchers to continue to raise cattle that provide the food for this population. So that should be the default position in all of these, in the solution. The default position is, what do we need to do to keep this rancher in business and to keep this a viable food-producing unit while at the same time meeting our national objectives to conserve the environment and our land, air, and water.
I will add one other little fly to the milk here this morning in our discussion, and that's, of course, I firmly believe a lot of this problem with the concentrated effort of the feds and the BLM and the very, very stoked, almost ready to a boiling point issue of the militia getting involved and other people with guns, all of this might have been averted if the county sheriff had been there to do his job in the first place.
Well, this may very well highlight that very issue. There's a serious question, an unanswered question, as to whether the federal government has any law enforcement jurisdiction whatsoever within state boundaries. And it appears to us that there is a growing body of information suggesting that that control is vested exclusively with the county sheriff, that these federal agents cannot engage in law enforcement activities without the express approval of the county sheriffs. And so it appears to us that in this instance, the county sheriff may have abrogated his duties, and we need sheriffs across the nation to seriously look at this and find out to what extent does their authority supersede the federal government's authority And I have a tendency to believe, I believe, that the authority is vested in the county sheriff, and that the county sheriffs have to exercise that authority. Otherwise, the federal government will do to them what they're doing to Bundy's.
Absolutely.
They'll start over them.
Absolutely. There's another issue. It might sound minor to some people, but it's not, especially when you're trying to make a living in the ranching industry, and that's the destruction of property. I mean, with corrals tipped over, animals shot, and I don't think that was necessary at all, water tanks destroyed, etc. There has to be, I think, a reimbursement from the feds to the rancher. If this is going to be solved so it's equal to both sides, the rancher should not have to pay for the destruction of his personal property during this siege.
And I would agree with that completely. And that's why I say I think what happens now moving forward will be the most important aspect of this entire situation. If the federal government acts responsibly, and if they do reimburse Clive and Bundy for the damage that they caused and the livestock that they have, that they purportedly have killed, then I think we may be entering a new era, an era of mutual respect. But if they don't do that, and if they just turn around and come back in a very aggressive manner to continue their untoward actions against Clive and Bundy, then I think the situation will simply get worse. So the ball is in the federal government's court. So far, they've done the right thing. They backed off. Now what they do next, I think, is just critically important, and I'm hopeful that they actually will call us. Clive and Bundy is a member of our cast, has been for a long time, and we would like to do everything within our power to resolve this in a way that, again, provides the Bundys an opportunity to continue their livelihoods and their business, as well as to allow the federal government to meet its objectives. And I think that we can find a solution to this problem if more reasonable minds would sit around the table to review this.
All right, we've got a call, and I've only got a minute left, so please call her real fast and short response. Go ahead.
Martin Zepp. The best article I've ever read on the county sheriff is Anderson's on Sheriffs. And it's a paper of about 20 pages, and it is an excellent summary of what the responsibilities of a sheriff is. Ask him if he's ever heard of it.
All right, thank you very much. Bill, have you heard of that report and that paper?
Steph, I didn't hear a word. I'm sorry.
He was talking about Anderson on Sheriffs. It's a report on the capabilities and the abilities and the power of the county sheriff over the federal government. He was wondering if you'd ever read that report.
And I have not.
Okay.
I have not seen that report.
All right. Bill, I want to say thank you very much on behalf of this program. You're always a good friend of this show. And, of course, RCAF USA, CEO Bill Bullard. Don't make yourself a stranger and come back in the near future. And I'll stay on top of this story, and we'll give you a call, have you back in a week or so. Thanks, Bill.
Sounds great. Thank you, Zeb.
God bless. Thank you much. Bill Bullard up at RCAF USA up in Montana, and we certainly appreciate all of his efforts coming on the program here this morning. Every Thursday at 10 after the hour, 10 after 10 on Thursdays, we have a special little segment called Cassia County School Days. And we're very, very blessed to have two really good sponsors of that segment. And they are A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley and Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Now, you know at A Child's World, it is a family store. Absolutely. And right now, they've got hundreds and hundreds of spring dresses for the ladies beginning at $20. Plus, you go on in there and you'll probably even get more percentages off on your purchase. And don't forget that they have all the games. They've got all the Cherokee and Dickie scrubs. They've got everything for the home and the family right there for you at A Child's World. 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley. And then also don't forget Ambulatory Surgery Center. 1344 Highland Avenue. And if you're planning a surgical procedure, call 677-8888. And you could literally save hundreds of dollars to maybe thousands of dollars by having your doctor use the Ambulatory Surgery Center for your outpatient surgery on Highland Drive in Burley. Call them today. That number again, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. We're going to take a little break and send it back over to Scotty at the main station, and then we'll be back with our next guest right after this. Don't go away.
And now, Now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. I want to remind everybody that we also have another segment on our program. It's called Gardening for Idiots. Well, it's named after me. I'm the world's worst gardener, and it's told to us every week as to how to grow a better garden from Vicky's Country Gardens. The lovely Vicky on our show, and she has her business at 185 South, 600 West of Paul, telling you all about how to grow your garden. And she has all your garden needs at Vicky's Country Gardens in Paul, Idaho. Don't forget, every Thursday we'll have her on the air at 9:12, and that's Vicky's Country Gardens and the show named after me, Gardening for Idiots. And I am learning. Ladies and gentlemen, a couple of weeks ago, I guess it's been almost 3 or 4 weeks ago, we started talking about a circumstance back in Ottawa, Illinois, and at Ottawa High School, and a gentleman by the name of Dave Keeley, the building arts teacher, and how basically the school board and the Board of Education wanted to end his teaching and end his classes in Ottawa High School, and it really offended me because I think shop classes and building arts instruction absolutely is important as any other class in high school for students to learn. Not all students are going to go to college, that is. Not all students are going to be math professors, etc. And we certainly need more welders and electricians in our world today. And with me on the phone is the gentleman that was let go from Ottawa High School, Dave Keeley, the building arts teacher. Good morning, Dave, back in Ottawa, Illinois. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Mr. Bell. How are you today?
Well, just call me Zeb, Dave, and we'll be on the same level. I don't want you to put me above by Mr., so just call me Zeb. I'd appreciate that.
No problem.
All right. Dave, I do not want to diminish or make the story wrong in any way, so could you give us a real quick give us the entire story, if you could, as to what happened at Ottawa High School and why the problems came about. Tell us what happened.
I was called in at the end of February to get the information from our superintendent and principal at Ottawa High School that we would not be continuing the building trades program next year. Our building trades program is a little bit more than just your basic shop class. Over the last 40 years, we've taken a brand new lot, built houses on those lots, and then flipped those houses over as a spec home, and then taken that money and put it back into the program so we could build new homes. When I took the program over in 2008, we finished.
Oh, no. Did we lose him? Are you there?
I'm getting him back now.
All right, thanks, Scotty. Sometimes cell phones can be the worst enemy of any program, and that happened right there, and Scotty's going to get him right back on the line, and hopefully we'll reestablish that phone line. Once again, we're talking to Dave Keeley back in Ottawa, Illinois, and Scotty's going to let me know when he gets him back on that line. As we wait patiently, I'll quickly tell you about what's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to have Colonel Dale Whipple on our program, along with Dr. History, and then others from around the United States with various subjects. So don't forget, tune in tomorrow morning at 8:06 right here, Zeb at the Ranch. Let's see if Scotty's got him back on the line. Scotty, are we ready?
You bet.
All right, thank you. And Dave, we apologize. Sometimes cell phones are dropped, and it looks like we had that problem this morning. And go ahead and pick up your story from the building of the houses in the community. Go ahead, please, Dave Keeley.
Yeah, like I said, the high school would finance a house, and then they'd flip that around, and we'd take that money that after we sold the house and put it back into the building trades program. Our kids go out onto sites. And from the ground up, there's just a patch of dirt, and we work with the foundation contractors all the way up through the finish of the roof and the finish of the inside of the house, and then we take that house and we sell it back out into the community. As I was stating, about 5 years ago, the school was not able to fund the spec home aspect of this program anymore, so I took it upon myself to go out in the community and find some projects to do within the city of Ottawa, Illinois. Specifically, we've built 2 houses for Habitat for Humanity, if you're familiar with that program.
Yes.
It's based on a volunteer basis, so all the money that the school did not have to put any money into those type of projects. All that money was through Habitat for Humanity. Our kids worked for two and a half years building these two houses. We worked with contractors, subcontractors on site, like electricians, plumbers, the HVAC subcontractors, and the foundation subcontractors. So our kids are getting exposed to the real-life experience of building houses like that. Some of the other projects that we've worked on through the last couple of years, there's a historic mansion in town. We built a garden pergola for that group, the Reddick Mansion. We're working this year with the Department of Natural Resources, and they have a canal shelter that we're restoring for them. So we're doing masonry work. We've installed cedar shakes on the roof. We rebuilt the roof. And with the Department of Natural Resources, you have to do everything historically, that was significant to that project. So we had to get some white oak timbers milled for the rafters, big honking 4-inch by 6-inch rafters. We installed all those. So we've done a lot of projects in the community and have been able to self-sustain ourselves over the last 5 years as far as the program goes.
Well, Dave, let me ask you this, Dave.
Citing lower roster numbers, which I don't believe is true, and the fact that it's a strain on the budget for this program to run, what I don't believe is true also, because we've been able to self-sustain ourselves.
Well, after everything that's happened, Dave, and basically the cancellation of the program and your employment, where are you now? And then we'll kind of fill in some of the other blanks. What's going on in your life right now?
March 17th school board meeting, I made a statement to the board kind of going over the things that I just talked with you about, how we've got good roster numbers and that the program itself can sustain itself financially. They still, after hearing from some of the local unions who said that they were willing to help, they still voted to discontinue the program. So now there's another meeting on the next Monday, April 28th, that we have some more community members that are willing to step up and speak on behalf of the program, and some of the students who are in the class and who have taken the class, or who want to take the class, will also be speaking on behalf of the program and its significance. At this point right now, the program is discontinued. I will not have a job next year, and we've got community members involved at this time to kind of get our school board to see that it is a valuable program to our students.
What were the reasons that the school board seemed to have so much animus against you in that program? It sounded like it was extremely successful. It sounded like the kids that were taking the classes were really learning some life experiences through this class, and it sounds like you were a real plus to the community. So how could any school board or any school look at it with a negative reaction?
They usually come back with the number crunching and give us the financial aspect of everything, specifically towards our course. I'm not sure what the problem was specifically. I think that they saw lower roster numbers than a typical class, which is due to the fact that we need to have lower numbers so I can keep track of kids on site and things like that. Another thing is a little bit of a misinformation. My class is a double period class, so I have only 3 classes throughout the day, but the kids come for 2 periods a day. So if I say I have 40 kids in my class, you really need to account for the fact that I have 80 kids throughout the day because they come for double periods. So I think some misinformation to the board and things like that is what got the numbers misconstrued as far as that goes. And
now, Dave, one other point I want you to elaborate on is they also took their angst out against the kids, too, that were part of your class because they protested the cancellation and also the letting go of you as a teacher. Tell us what happened to the kids.
Yeah, it's funny that you were, just touching on the whole Bundy situation because that brings up the whole bullying and intimidation that I think occurred with our administration and with this peaceful protest that the kids had. This meeting that I was talking about, the school board meeting where I made my statements, the next morning the kids took it upon themselves to hold a sit-in during homeroom, and that went on for a better part of the morning at the school. Kids were threatened with their sports being taken away, prom being taken away, not being able to walk in graduation, things like this. And at a certain point, the kids were told that they should leave the school. And after that, then of course the discipline came in for the kids that did leave the school. That they've left school and now they're going to be disciplined for it after they've been directed to leave and go in the first place. At a certain point, our superintendent actually called me while I was in my classroom about a half an hour to 45 minutes into the protest and asked that I come down and address the kids because there was a safety issue and that kids needed to return to class. I refused to go down there at that point because that's not my job.
Right.
It should have been his job and the administration's job.
Right.
And they obviously weren't able to handle it at that point. About 15 minutes later, the chief of police of Ottawa, the principal of the school, and the superintendent showed up at my door. And the superintendent once again asked that I go down and address the kids. I said, it's not my job. I know they're chanting my name at this point, but that should be the administration's job. He then gave me a direct order to go down there, trying to get me to be basically insubordinate if I didn't. So I did go down and address the kids. At that time, when I came down, there was 130 to 150 kids sitting in the hallway, all peacefully just protesting, not really making any noise. The police were there. The police were helping the kids to get them to know what they had to do to have a peaceful protest. So the Ottawa police were great in this situation. I addressed the kids. I told them I was proud of them. I told them their teachers were proud of them for standing up for what they believe in. I told them that it's okay to question authority if you think you have an issue. And I told them to go home and read their Ottawa High School mission statement, which states in part that the responsibility of Ottawa High School is to demonstrate that many fields of knowledge are interrelated and that each area can contribute significantly to students' intellectual growth. I told them to talk to their families about this and then come back and see what they wanted to do about that as far as how they would address school board and administration. And that's kind of what's been going on for the last month. We've got a lot of community support, students involved. People are talking about the mission statement of Ottawa High School and trying to figure out if these are the people in charge they want to have running this type of school.
Dave, now there's so many questions that come up, but one that really sticks in my mind after listening to your story is, did you have any idea that this was going to happen? Did you see it coming? Did anybody notify you that maybe there was angst of a school board versus your program? Did you see this coming down the pike at all?
In general, Zeb, the FFA had been on the chopping block about a month before. And the FFA had brought some people together and got some farmers in the community together, and they made a statement to the board, and they were able to save that program and the kids in that. So I kind of knew that vocational and these extra programs were kind of under the gun at this point. It wasn't a surprise to me. It's a little bit of a surprise for the reasons they gave and how they went about it that way. But there's some issues right now with the teachers union and the way they went about the reduction in force process, which are now being taken care of by my union because they didn't follow that process the way it should have been taken care of also. Dave,
how could this have been averted to the point where everybody could have had a win-win situation? Could it have been averted if you would have had an audience with the leadership of the school and the school board and showed in black and white and figures as to how you were a self-supporting system all by yourself? I mean, what could have been done and what should have been done to make sure that this was averted and never got the notoriety that it did?
I think that's the main problem right there, Zeb, is that the school board had some information given to them by the administration, and at that point their vote was made up before the meeting because my statement to the board during the meeting lays out all the facts that I've kind of alluded to at this point. Also, like I said, our local trades council sent them a letter to the school board before the meeting stating, don't cancel this program. We think it's a valuable program, and we will find a way to save it. And they disregarded that also and still voted it out. And right now, that trades council also has been talking with the school board, trying to find ways to save the program. And really, what the unions in our area, they're not even asking us to train our students to specifically do certain jobs. What they're really looking for is a program that gives them the overall sense of how you need to go about a job in the workplace, in the workforce. They want people that are prepared and people that know that you have to have safety as an issue, that you have to be at work every day, and that you need to communicate on the job site, things like that. So that's what they're really looking for, and they're putting forth their effort right now to also save the program, along with a lot of community members and people that have taken the course over the last 40 years and people that want to take the course in the future.
Well, you just kind of answered the question I was going to ask you, Dave, is what about the parents? What about the community leadership? What about the alumni, that type of thing? Have they stood up and said, wait a minute, stop the wagon here, Hoss. We've got to look at this thing before it gets out of hand. Have you had that kind of support?
Yeah, I believe we have, and like I said, that we're trying to get our members together as far as the community and people who are concerned with this issue and get them to this April 28th board meeting. It's really a bigger issue than just building trades also, Zeb. I think, I spoke with you earlier. It's a national issue as far as how children are educated. There's people out there that they don't learn sitting in a desk. They don't learn just looking at a chalkboard. They need to get out. They need to get their hands dirty, like Mike Rose says. Get up clean, come home dirty every day, and that's across the board. What I've heard from people who have taken the class, and they just know that that's how they learned. They were educated, they were smart, but they have a different avenue that they need to take in order to get this knowledge.
I'm sitting here and I'm in amazement as to how you said this program operated and how it was run and the life learning experiences they had building these homes and basically learning how to be a self-sufficient group within the school. And I'm absolutely appalled as to why the school board would just basically put thumbs down on something that would be such a valuable life lesson giving to these children leaving and possibly going on to school in college or possibly developing a trade, whether it's a welder, whether it's an electrician, whatever. I just can't imagine why our society is basically shunning this type of thing, including the FFA, and thinking that all kids are college material.
Right. And I think it has a little bit to do with how the state funds money and the testing that goes on and how schools get their money from the state when they eventually get it. It has to deal with are these kids passing these certain tests that show that the school is successful. And nothing comes into play like what happens in a shop class or a building trades class. And that, I think, comes down to trust and respect. And that's a mutual trust and respect between the instructor and the student. I have to tell a kid how to use a power tool, and then I have to look him in the eye, and he has to look me back in the eye, and I have to tell him to let her eat, pull the trigger on this thing, and let's go. I trust you to do it. He has to trust me that I've told him the right way to use it. And there's things like that you just can't learn in a classroom.
Dave, let me ask you this question. After all that's been said and done and all the dirty laundry, quite frankly, that's come out in regards to the cancellation of this program, could you, as an instructor, if the school board sat down and said, hey, we need to make retribution on this and we need to make it right, could you go back to work in this school and do the same thing you were doing before?
Yes, I believe I could. I've weathered the storm as far as it goes. There's morale between the teachers and the administration that's, quite frankly, been going on for a few years. It needs some help. But I think I would be a strong enough person to go back into that school and continue doing what I've been doing. Not that they would have me, and as I stated in the March 17th school board meeting, if it's an issue with me, then just remove me from the situation and insert instructor X into this position. I'm here to save this. I'm here to save this program because I've seen from all the kids that have come back to me and the kids that I have in these current years that it's a very valuable course.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Now, if you can't hear the question, I'll repeat it for you, Dave. Go ahead, caller, quickly, please.
Yeah, what I'm getting out of this and ask him to address this sounds to me like it's another Common Core mess.
Okay. Dave, did you hear that?
Yes, I did. That issue has been brought up. I've put out some statements and some videos that I found on the Common Core issue on our website and things like that. And I think it is. It comes down to, like I said, how the state supplies money to the schools and what they have to prove in order to get that money. And when you focus on certain things, other, classes like the vocational classes might get left behind because there's no way to really prove that you've taught this kid something unless you take all the testimonies like I've talked about of kids that come back to me and parents that tell me that the only reason that their kid came to school is because they knew that they had building trades that day.
Caller, thank you very much for your question this morning. I appreciate it. Dave, Mike Rowe got involved, and Mike, of course, is quite a nationally renowned figure with the television program Dirty Jobs and also a lot of his commercials for Ford Motor Company, etc. What are his thoughts about what happened to you at Ottawa, Illinois High School?
He's very proud of our kids. The short video that he made about the wood shop was great because he was talking about how the kids really didn't care if they missed prom or not. They had something to stand up for, and he was proud of them for that, as were our teachers and myself. His efforts have been going on for probably, I think, the last 5 or 6 years, and he understands the disconnect between university kids and kids that need to go into the trades.
Mm-hmm.
He understands there's a disconnect in the workplace right now, and that there was a negative connotation given to people who wanted to work with their hands when I was younger, and you go into the guidance counselor, and like Mike says, you see the poster of the guy with the college degree, and the caption underneath it is "Work smart, not hard," and the guy who's got the wrench on his shoulder looks like he's ready to give up on life, and that it's a point where we need to realize the majority of our nation are tradespeople, and they're people that like to work hard, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. Very well stated, Dave. Dave, I've got one more call. I've got to keep it brief. I'm almost out of time. Caller, quickly, go ahead with your question.
I just want to know how we get your guest and his program here in Southern Idaho.
See, Dave, you've already got a job application offer right here. They want to move you out here to Southern Idaho. What do you think about that?
It's like we said earlier, Zeb. I've got my 25-year anniversary coming up, and it's got to go through the boss first.
I want to say, Dave, and to all the folks that have been so kind and gracious to me for carrying this story on the air, the folks from Ottawa, Illinois, anything I can do to help promote you and what you're doing back there, Dave, I think it's a real asset to all schools and especially our youth all over America. And I want to extend God's blessings, and I hope this issue is settled so that it's a benefit to everybody, including you and the students, and the continuation of your class. And thank you so much for coming on my program, and the very best to you, my friend.
Zeb, same to you. God bless you, and thank you for shining some light on this. And like I said, it's a national issue, and we hope to get the country turned around and looking at tradespeople like the people that they are, the hardworking backbone of America.
And I tell you, if there's any changes, Dave, you've got my number. Call me, and we'll get it on the air, okay?
I appreciate it, sir.
God bless you. Thank you so much. Dave Keeley from Ottawa, Illinois. He was the building arts instructor, and what a story. And I certainly hope it's resolved so those kids can have that class back in their school. God bless him and what he's doing. Holy smokes, I've got to get the weather on with MichaelRogersWeather.com, and it's brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road in Jerome. Don't forget they've been in Southern Idaho for over 20 years, offering quality products at reasonable rates, the best in meat cutting, and they've got their own smokehouse, and they're selling taste one bite at a time. Don't forget Scarrows Meats in Jerome, and right now here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. First of many broadcasts that I'll be giving you as far as your weather forecast, as I'm sitting here outside of North Pole, Alaska. As far as the Idaho weather is concerned, well, we get some pretty nice day for today. Sunny clouds, temperatures in the we're going to go upper 60s, maybe low 70s, maybe 71. Overnight lows are not going to be that much of a problem for today, and also for tomorrow. So otherwise, have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats at 331 North Road in Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. Scarrows Meats, selling taste one bite at a time. I really enjoyed having Dave Keeley on the program, and what a shop teacher, and you could tell by his voice and his verbiage, really enjoys the kids and giving them real-life experiences. Can you imagine building homes and then turning the homes and being self-sufficient in the program with the money generated by those homes? Holy cow, they learned from literally the ground up on those homes, what to do, how to build it, how to use the tools, everything. That was fantastic. Hey, speaking of fantastic, don't forget our friends friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Of course, I'll give you all 7 locations in just a moment, but they've got a huge tire sale going on right now. All the tires for your pickups, all the tires for your SUVs, your cars, etc. Like the tires like the Ultra Z900, all the best all-season touring tire. It's on sale right now. And then for your pickup trucks, don't forget the Open Country AT2. Wow, 40% more tread life, enhanced traction, better braking. All of these tires, all the tread designs on sale right now. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome. Don't forget the Twist family over in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, it's all there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Scotty Cameron, you did very well today, my friend. Thank you for filling in. It's been a real treat to talk to you for a change.
It's always to come over and, a pleasure, I should say, to come over and to help out. I always enjoy your program.
And our sister station, Cat Country, you're heavily involved with that, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I kind of fly the spaceship over there.
Have you encountered any space aliens that we should be notified about, or what's going on?
Lots and lots of unique individuals, that's for sure.
There's unique individuals everywhere. Every time you turn a corner, you're going to find a unique individual in this area, I'll tell you that. Hey, Scotty, thank you. You did an outstanding job, and I understand that Gina will be back tomorrow. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thanks for giving her the R&R, a day off, and Scott Cameron filling in. And this is Zeb Bell saying don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning at 8:06. We're going to be right back here in the saddle for 3 hours, and we've got some great guests planned and a lot of interesting topics. And if you can't get us on KBAR 1230, you can get us on ZebBell.com, my internet, and listen to the program and push the audio button and enjoy. Zeb at the Ranch, don't forget, the way things were the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.